Hello, what is up? What's good? Welcome into the OnlyBets Sports Podcast Tuesday edition alongside Stern Bets. Drew Luke, I'm the Prince of Picks. Got a great show lined up for you guys today. Boy, do we have a lot to react to yesterday in the major leagues. Of course, we had some more acquisitions, more trades yesterday afternoon as the deadline passed last evening. So I'm sure the boys here will have some thoughts and reactions to what we saw last night in the major leagues and see if we can get any more analysis on any more of the big trades that happened last night in the Major League Baseball. And of course, we do have one game in the WNBA tonight. We've got some action on the pitch. Specifically, we got Leagues Cup. We're going to be starting tonight, which of course is the tournament between the MLS and Liga MX. That's going to be kicking off tonight. Do have a play for you guys in that one. So we'll get to that here shortly. But let me go ahead and bring in Moshe. Good morning, sir. Happy Tuesday. How you doing?
Good morning indeed. First of all, we would like to apologize to our listeners. Yesterday's show wasn't recorded properly. I don't know what's going on with Twitter. It is something that is a long-standing issue with our recording process, but we're looking for alternative solutions. If you guys have any free ones, please feel free to reach out and let us know. Yeah, we're looking great, man. We are in the final throes of the MLB season where we are starting to look only towards the playoffs. Team structures are starting to fall into place. I think it was a lot of, listen, we've been watching the MLB for the first 65% of the season already. And the fact that there's really only 5 to 7 teams kind of out of the playoff race who really decided to be sellers, it was really surprising, I think. And it's really competitive and it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how everybody jockeys for position. And we're going to get into it a little bit later in the show. I did write up a little bit of the trade deadline of my favorite trades, and we will definitely get into it. But wow, Luis Garcia Jr. hitting that home run coming into the Yankees. I mean, that is exciting. To be fair, Alec Burleson stole the show with 3 home runs in that game, and the Yankees ended up losing mostly due to their bullpen. But my goodness, what an entrance to New York.
Yeah, what better way to introduce yourself, right? Big time right there. Happy to see it for the Yankees fans out there, including yourself.
Yes, I know you are short on time, so let's just get into the W. Yeah, what do we got here, man, today? What are we doing? What are we looking at? Oh, sorry. Before we get to that, let's recap how we did yesterday. Drew, you're in, yeah? How you doing, buddy?
Good, yeah. Matthew Boyd, that was he did pretty well. I was impressed. It looked shaky for him in the first, but he did not cover the under. But shout out to him for pitching 6.2 innings. I think it was like my first. Oh yeah, it's funny. I guess Mondays aren't good because my only loss last week was on a Monday, so we bounced back.
Looking forward to a good rest of the week indeed. I thought, yeah, it was a phenomenal game. Cannot wait for the game tonight. My goodness, we're going to talk about Tariq Skubal. I went 1-0, Rays cash, no sweat, even though they did give up like 6 or 7 runs towards the end of that. Rays -1.5, minus 104 cash is essentially sweat free. Prince, how did you do yesterday? And then we'll get into the W.
Yeah, Drew, I think you're onto something here. Mondays have been a little bit rough for me as well. Struck out yesterday, 0 for 3. I'm gonna try to stay away from the parlays. That they're not working out as much as they were earlier. So we missed our W parlay. We hit the Liberty on the money line, the Dream. I thought that game was gonna be close, but wow! Shout out to the Aces. They absolutely blew out Atlanta in Atlanta. Very much a statement win for the Vegas Aces, and this is what they did last year. I should have known better. Last year, the Aces did the same thing. They turned it on after the All-Star break, and they seem to be doing it again this season. They're absolutely turning it to another level here as we get towards the end of the regular season and start to push towards the playoff stretch. So big win for them. And then in the ASEAN Cup this morning, unfortunately, we struck out as well. We had Laos +2. It was a very high-scoring game, which I was more on the total than it was on the spread. But unfortunately, the total was just a little bit too juiced to play pre-match, so I stayed away from it. But we did cash about 5 or 6 live plays, but it was super early in the morning. It was at 5 a.m. local, 6 a.m. Eastern time. So not too many people cashed out with me, but I cashed out. So I'm happy for that. And then we've also missed in our other play between the Philippines and Thailand. Philippines in a must-win situation. You would have thought they would have pushed a little bit more for goals, but they just could not get anything close to scoring. So ended up 1-0. It is what it is. We start off 0-3, but we got the rest of the week here to make up for it.
Yes, we do, and we have quite the slate today. Let's start off in the W. No more parlays. What do we got?
Yeah, no more parlays. We're staying away from those for now. So just one game tonight.
Oh,
We do
sorry,
have the
sorry.
Toronto.
With the caveat
Yeah,
that if it's Caitlin Clark 2+3s,
right. Thank you for reminding me that. Yes, that is the only one. We will continue to play that parlay. Other than that, I'm gonna try to stay away from it here until we get back in some wins here. But oh, by the way, guys, any live listeners, if you guys can't hear me, please let me know. We did the whole show yesterday, did an hour long show, and I didn't find out till after the show that nobody could hear me the whole time. So literally talked for an hour without any of it getting recorded. So if you guys can't hear me, please just send me a message. Let me know so that we can try to get it addressed. But I heard there was issues with spaces all across the board yesterday, so maybe it wasn't something on my end. But in any case, here, getting back to the W, we have the Toronto Tempo heading to Golden State Barrier here, taking the Valkyrie on here. I like the Valkyrie big in this one. They played each other recently. The Valkyrie won by double digits. I think that happens again tonight. Toronto 2-8 ATS in their last 10. They're just 1-11 straight up on the money line. Really struggling here towards the end of the season. And the Valkyrie, very much a playoff team here, very much a title contender. And you're going to start seeing these title contenders really start to step it up here as we get towards the end of the regular season. Of course, we are going to be entering an international break for the women's basketball as they're going to be competing. I believe it's the FIBA World Cup for the women's, if I'm not mistaken. It's either the World Cup or the Eurobasket. Can't remember which one it is, but there is a women's international tournament coming up where the WNBA will be on a pause for a little bit during that. But in any case here, give me the Valkyrie big. I will lay the 12.5 with Golden State at home, and that comes in at -112.
absolutely love it. Going to be tailing along. Looking
Go
forward to a
Valkyrie.
great game. Sorry, Drew. What were you saying?
I was saying go Valkyrie.
Heck yeah. All right, let's get into soccer. Let's just get right into it. You've been crushing these ASEAN picks. What do we got today? I think we have Champions League qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken. Is there anything we're looking at in that tournament?
We do. I'm gonna try to stay away from the Champions League ones, qualifiers for now. We got the first legs are difficult to judge. You want to get I find it better, more advantageous to bet on the second leg. That way you have kind of a reference point, a score line to go off of, because you really don't know how these teams are going to approach this first leg. So first legs are always tricky. I do have one play. I mean, I guess I'll give it out here. I'm not going to give it on the recap, but for those who are listening live, if you want to get in on this, it's a 1:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Hapoel Beersheva from the Israeli league going to be taking on Zvena Zvezda, which basically I believe in English is Red Star from Serbia, if I'm not mistaken. I like both teams to score in this one. You're going to get there around -105. Both teams scoring over 2.5 comes at -105. I do think we see goals in this game. We talked about the Israeli league before. They typically are a higher scoring league. All the teams in that league tend to score goals, but they can also concede at any point. So playing against a team of the quality of Red Star, I do think even on the road, Red Star should be able to score, but I also think Hapoel should score. So I like a little bit of a higher scoring game here. Both teams score over 2.5. -105, that's for the live listeners, but I'm not going to put that on the recap.
I just want to say that
Everything else.
might be my favorite play.
Yeah.
It really is
I mean,
such a great pick. Anytime you get one of these higher potential, I guess I would say, Israeli teams
Yep.
coming into an international league, they cannot stop people from scoring, yet
Nope.
they have incredible talent to be able to figure out how to score in almost every single game. Absolutely love this pick.
Yep. 100%. Yep, 100%. That's spot on. And then other games I'm looking at here, but pre-match a little bit too juiced. Dinamo Zagreb taking on Kauno Žalgiris from Lithuania, the Lithuanian league, one of the worst leagues in Europe. When you're talking about outside of your tiny countries. So I think Dinamo Zagreb is in for a pretty hefty win here. They're -800 on the money line, so something maybe to look at live. Maybe you don't get any goals for the first 20 minutes. You can get a playable price on the first half or something like that. And then another game I'm also looking at is Union Saint Gilloise from Belgium taking on Bodo Glimt, our beloved Bodo Glimt. Of course, course, made that deep run into the Champions League last year. We all fell in love with the Nordic team there playing on the artificial grass, although this one's going to be in Belgium. I think we see goals in this one as well, but I'm going to stay away. I want to see how these teams approach it first before I dive in on it. But I do think, excuse me, probably both teams to score over 2.5 is a sharp play in that one. But let me clear my voice real quick, Mosh. Give me 1 sec. All right, sorry about that, guys. I'm losing my voice a little bit this morning, so forgive me here if my voice goes in and out. But all right, looking at the plays here that I like tonight in the Leagues Cup, which of course again is the one between US MLS and Liga MX. We're looking at one game here that I'm going to be putting a play on pre-match. Cincinnati taking on Pachuca of Cincinnati. Of course, just an overs team in general. When you're talking about the top 15 leagues in the world, Cincinnati has averaged more goals per game than any other team in the top 15 leagues in the world. So Cincinnati games are seeing over 4 goals per game right now. Again, that is number one in the entire world when you're talking about the top 15 leagues in the world. So safe to say Cincinnati overs are an over bet or auto bet right now, no matter who they play. Pachuca very well here can get some goals on the board, even on the road at Cincinnati. So I think we're in for a high scoring game in this one. So give me Cincinnati Pachuca over 3 at minus 150. And then I do have one play for the Bolivian League, Bolivia Primera Division. This is going to be a 6 p.m. Eastern kickoff tonight with Independiente taking on Aurora, another high-scoring league in this one. These two teams are seeing 3 goals in their games pretty regularly, so I like that as well. In this one, Independiente Aurora over 3 goals, and that comes in at minus 115.
Love it. Looking forward to watching. Good to have some action all day long. All right, where are we going to next, Prince? What is any of the topic of conversations that we can go to? I mean, we have the MLB, which I'm always happy to talk about, but that might take a while. I know you have a hard out at 12. Is there anything else that you want to get to before, we kind of melt into the show?
Yeah, no, nothing really. Like I said, I mean, as far as Champions League goes, it's probably a lot of live betting opportunities that you guys might want to look at. I mentioned a few of those already. So just kind of wait and see with that. We do have more Leagues Cup tomorrow, which we'll get into on tomorrow's show. There's more games tomorrow night. So, but with these Leagues Cup games, guys, you guys want to be very careful how you approach these because we need to see how these teams are going to approach this tournament in terms of what kind of lineups they give out, right? Traditionally, there are certain teams, certain clubs that, let's just face it, they don't respect this tournament at all, right? And so they will absolutely put out their youth team, they'll put out their B team, even their C team, and really focus on the domestic league. So there's a lot of variance in how these teams approach this tournament. So it's very important to wait and see how they're going to play, what lineup they're going to put out there, and what intensity level that they're going to have as they're playing this match. There's certain teams they're going to go for it, like Inter Miami. They're going to go for it, right? You don't spend as much money as Inter Miami has spent and not try to win everything. They're going to try to win everything that's in front of them. So certain teams like that you don't have to worry about, but a lot of the teams you do need to make sure as to what kind of lineup they have out there and what kind of level of commitment they have to the tournament. Because let's face it, when all is said and done, this tournament is very much a cash grab. There is not really any culture associated with it yet. Most fans, most teams, most players, they don't really care about this tournament that much. It's just kind of there, so they play it, but there really isn't any kind of history to it, or it's like the whole League MX MLS competition is more so in the Champions Cup and the CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's where you get those rivalries, not so much in this fabricated Leagues Cup. So you just a little tidbit there, PSA for you guys out there who want to bet on this tournament. Just be very careful, be very cautious, and make sure you guys are paying attention to the lineups that are going to be released here for these teams, which is usually they come up at an hour and a half before kickoff. So something to pay attention to and something to keep in mind for sure. But other than that, no other risk watch. But I am interested to hear you guys' takes on the Major League Baseball. We can just dive right into that. And then I'll hang around till about 12 p.m. Eastern, and I'll let you guys know when I got to get out of here. But what are we looking at? We had some more trades in the afternoon yesterday as we wound down towards the end of the trade deadline. What are you guys' thoughts, Stern? I'll go to you first.
Yeah. All right. So we did have a whole segment yesterday, which I think we really, really talked about a lot of these trades, and we're just going to go over it a little bit because I know yesterday's show was cut a little bit weird. But biggest name on the trade deadline, and Drew, feel free to step in at any point here. Scooble, definitely the most talented person, period, being traded on the trade deadline. Obviously, went to the Dodgers. I saw a little bit of a meme which showed Superman being signed to the Dodgers. It's just not fair. And I'm speaking as a Yankee fan, which I know is ironic, but again, thank you, Dodgers, for taking the mantle of the most hated team in all of baseball. And as we discussed yesterday, this will likely force way overdue conversations about a real salary cap, not just a luxury tax, because this can't continue. There's no way that teams like the Marlins and the Brewers and, all the other lesser grossing teams, how are you supposed to compete with a team that is just built with all-stars? We said it yesterday. Literally half of the Dodgers 26-man lineup, people on the roster are all-stars. Half. It's just crazy. And the Tigers didn't even get the biggest haul. That honor went to Adley Rutschman, who, to be fair, there was a very serious division tax because the Yankees were interested in a catcher, an all-star catcher, and there was a number of other teams that were interested in, and he was traded inside their own division. But Adley Rutschman to the Red Sox, I think, took a bigger haul than Tariq Skubal. I think it was a huge mistake, and I saw this yesterday. I was listening to the MLB game pre-show on the MLB network where they were discussing the trades live. They could have waited. The Tigers should have waited until the last minute and then just fielded as many offers as they could have. I think they got off a little bit. The Dodgers got off a little bit scot-free in that one. So very interesting to see how that all breaks down. But again, Adley Rutschman to the Red Sox is a huge, huge move. Probably number 2 in my book in terms of immediate ability to affect the game. Not a lot of teams folded, as we kind of talked about in years past. A lot of teams usually fold at the around the All-Star break, towards the trade deadline, trying to restructure their teams. But because the races are so close, I think it was like 85% of teams are within 4.5 games of the playoffs. That's wild. I'm very happy to see that the Pirates did not sell. They went out and got closer Camilo Doval, which was the exact opposite of what a lot of people expected them to. And I think that was the right move. I think that if the Pirates have a chance, we've talked about them, they have a good young pitching staff, and they just replaced, or I guess supplemented, their biggest issue, which was once the game gets into the 9th inning, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. All right. Other teams that were sellers were Giants, Mets, Tigers, Orioles, and Royals. I think that those were all pretty much expected. They all moved significant pieces in clear build for the future mentality. Other buyers, some of the teams that I linked moving, or I guess some of the pieces that I linked these teams moving was Luis Arraez for the Phillies. I think that will create an immediate murderer's row with him, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and then even Brandon Marsh, who's been really ridiculous this season. And then when Adolis Garcia gets back in that lineup, I mean, that's gonna be brutal to pitch through. Padres completely revamped their starting rotation, keeping pace somewhat with the Dodgers, and I think that was surprising to a lot of people. I think a lot of people expected them to sell some of their significant pieces, but they brought in Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. Similarly, the Cubs also brought in a completely revamped starting rotation with Clay Holmes and Kevin Gausman. The last 2 trades that I really like that I want to talk about here is really Dalton Varsho to Houston and Freddie Peralta to the Rays. I have a feeling we're going to get to Freddie Peralta a little bit later. I think the Rays will be able to rehab him a little bit. They have a talent for that. We've seen it time and time again where they bring in struggling pitchers and they just seem to pitch better for Tampa. And I think that we are going to see that later today. And then, of course, do not miss this. Tariq Skubal is having his first start for the Dodgers tonight at 8:10. Definitely stay tuned. But let's get to today's pick. Sorry for that monologue. Again, this might be a little bit narrative driven, but I'm going to be taking the Guardians.
Oh, I had
money
some
line.
takes on the free agent, but do you want me to do it after?
Yeah. Let me just keep rolling through because I'm not technically done. I incorporated some more trade deadline talk inside this pick, which is why I called it narrative driven. But yeah. Give me 1 second. Hopefully I'll be done. Guardians, minus 137 money line. They brought in Joe Adele and Foster Griffin, which are really two badly needed pickups for them. And it really shows the team that they are going for it this season. On the other side, the Mets were one of the biggest sellers on the trade deadline. Multiple high-profile starters and relievers getting shipped off. On the mound tonight is two starting pitchers in absolute opposite career arcs, and each one could be vulnerable, but I do think that they are in slightly different tiers in their pitching. Joey Cantillo is getting the start at home for the Guardians. He has had a decent season overall. Games largely decided with the control. He generally has it, but basically what we're seeing is he's either going to give up 1 run or 4 runs. The underlying metrics are great, minus the 11% walk rate, 7.5% barrel rate, 37.5% hard hit rate, and he has elite whiff to strikeout metrics, 30.7 whiff rate to a 25% strikeout rate. I like backing him as he is on more often than he's not. And then the Mets offensively rank below league average across the board. They're missing Soto. I think they're going to be in complete disarray after the trade deadline. I think this team had a lot of built up expectations preseason from everybody, not just themselves. And I think they're going to be in a little bit of a funk now without Soto being able to kind of right the ship. Just don't see it. Guardians ranked 7th at home in the first 5 innings in offensive production. And they're going to be back. They're going to be facing, oh no, I lost it. Sean Manaea, there he is, who's also had his ups and downs this season. He has had 2 particularly great starts at home, but he is going on the road where his ERA doesn't hold up so much. His road ERA sits at 4.68. The underlying metrics aren't great. 9.2% barrel rate, 40.5% hard hit rate. I'm not really sure how far he's going to go into this game, which just puts more pressure on the Mets bullpen, which again, narrative driven, but they just got rid of 2 of their huge bullpen pieces, Luke Weaver, and I'm missing the other one, Doval, right? I think Doval got traded from them. So I just don't see how this Mets bullpen kind of keeps up here. I think that the pressure is going to be on them. They are on the road. Guardians are going to be very excited moving forward as a full team towards the playoffs, and the Mets just aren't. So I'm going to take the Guardians money line minus 137. Sorry, Drew, go on. What do you got for this?
Yeah, I like your picks a lot. For today, I have Freddie Peralta over 15.5 hours minus 115. I think he'll keep raising. I like this a lot, especially with his debut. Like you said, the Rays are really good at rehabbing pitchers. And he's facing a Rockies team. Yes, they are really good on offense, but they just had Seymour go 6 innings against him. And this is a guy who had 9 full days of rest. It wasn't because of injury or anything. The Mets just didn't play him his last start because they kind of knew he was going to get traded. And he has full rest. He's had success against Rockies in the past. And the Rays are a team that generally let their starting pitchers work when they need to work. And Freddie Peralta, one thing he was frustrated with the Mets is they would take him out early, not trust him to finish out innings, and stuff like that. And I think that messed with his psyche because with the Brewers, he was absolutely excellent and a Cy Young candidate year and out, still young. So before I go to free agency, of course, what do you think about that play?
I absolutely love it. I like the Rays on the run line once again. I was almost my official play. I think Freddie Peralta does bounce back. I'm a little concerned about the longevity, but again, you're talking about the Rockies who really struggle in the first 5 innings, and Freddie Peralta's underlying metrics aren't bad. The problem really is converting the really good whiff rate to a good strikeout rate, and then compare and combining that with his walk rate, which isn't so great. It kind of causes him some trouble, but he's inducing really weak contact, and I very much expect him to kind of get on board. So yeah, I like the play a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. To go on what you said, I agree with everything you said with the free agency aspects of things. One thing that I noticed was with my Giants, one of the first times we've actually done a full fire sale, and I think we needed that. And I've been impressed. Usually, I'll give my favorite team, honest grades, but I think the Giants were one of the biggest winners of the trade deadline with the amount of good prospects they got. I was very surprised the Phillies got rid of one of their top pitching prospects. Some people consider him that he not necessarily even the fifth or fourth. I forgot necessarily his name, but he's been lining up single A's. I think he's only like 20 years old. And then I really like what the Giants got from the Yankees for Ramos as successor, and they got Jeff Kent's son, which was pretty good. And I think the Yankees made out with Ramos. And then for the Red Sox, my favorite trade was us giving them Eric Miller, and we got Marcelo Meyer, who was a formal number one all prospect. And I think he hasn't given much of a chance because just last year he was the number one overall prospect, and he played 1 year. And if he pans out like they expect him to do, and the Giants can develop him well, I think he'll be a great breakout star. And then overall, though, I was very impressed with like the Rays. The Cubs did really well. The Yankees, especially with Luis Garcia, as we saw yesterday, and of course the Phillies. And one thing to note about the Dodgers that my buddy reminded me last night was that back in 2012, the Dodgers were about to go bankrupt because of no ownership. So they gave him a Time Warner deal for bankruptcy with 25 years, 8.3 billion. So that means they make an extra around $67 million of revenue per year, right, for the next 25 years after that, more than any other team. So if you think about it, up until that point, let me see, 15 times 67 million, they've made about a billion more extra revenue than any other team has. So just to add on, they're getting $70+ million extra of revenue every year. So it's one of those things where salary cap is needed and stuff like that. And especially their group, the Guggenheimer group, them three combined for $365 billion worth of ownership. And all the other teams combined for less than 300 billion ownership wise. Just think about that.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. This whole situation with the MLBPA is just a little ridiculous. I've never seen an organization or a really a union have this much power over the rest of the league. It's kind of wild. Because correct me if I'm wrong, they've tried to solve this problem in the past. I think in the late 90s, they really went on the Yankees to try to stop this. And the players union was just like, no, we'll give you a luxury tax. That's it.
Yeah, real quick, guys, I'm going to jump in. I do have some thoughts on this as well. We talked about it yesterday. Of course, you guys couldn't hear me, so I'll go ahead and say it again. But excuse me, sorry about my voice again, guys. Powering through this. But yeah, I think look, you're looking at the major leagues. It's the only professional league in American sports that does not have a salary cap, right? So I think there's something to be said about that. I mean, you need a salary cap to provide parity to give some of these smaller markets a chance. Like Drew was just saying, I mean, look at the payroll of some of these massive major market teams. When you're talking about the smaller markets, there's no way they're going to be able to compete just based on the caliber of players they're going to be able to sign. It's just nowhere near what the Dodgers can do, what the Yankees can do, what the even the Mets to an extent, right? You got your all these major market teams are just at an unfair competitive disadvantage, in my opinion. It shouldn't be based on how much money you can spend, but rather how you spend that money, right? Is the way that I look at it. And so teams shouldn't be at an advantage just because they have a larger revenue, a larger income than say another team. I don't think that's the way that you should measure competitive fairness. So I think Major League Baseball is behind the curve on that one, very much so. But we'll see what happens next year with the deal coming up. Of course, they'll have to come to the table and come to a new agreement. But look, Major League Baseball is in trouble, and I think that's a massive issue that needs to be addressed. I think you guys would agree with me on that.
I agree to a certain extent. I don't necessarily know if MLB is in real trouble because I think that the numbers in the media has gone up largely. I think that they've done a really good job at community outreach, at changing the rules, at making it a little bit more modern. But yeah, this is definitely an issue that they need to address in order to make it a little bit more fair and more competitive, which I think will also drive more viewerships and numbers towards them. I can't imagine that it's really that much of a bad thing. I'm not going to cry because some MLB All-Stars aren't getting paid an extra 100 mil. Can't, I can't, and
100%.
I believe, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, that's really the primary reason why this never went through. right? The biggest players in the league were just like, no, we deserve more money. Alex Rodriguez needed more money. To be fair, that was to my Yankees, but I wasn't necessarily happy with the contract that he was given. It was similar to the Seinfeld,
Yes.
Seinfeld cast members. They destroy television forever.
Yeah, and I think one of the main reasons also too is that a lot of these teams, because like I was thinking the Yankees and Red Sox were like top two for a while, and when it came to payroll overall, and a lot of these players that they got weren't like uh they got like one or two people that are the peak at that point, but then they got some older people like Gary Sheffield and stuff like that, but a lot of homegrown talent. The problem with the Dodgers, like I said, this all started in 2012 when they, of course, they were bankrupt, and then the MLB favored them with the long term contract when everyone else split it 50%. And if you look at it right now, I was doing this research last night. The Dodgers make 200 to 300 million more revenue than the next closest team, which is the Yankees. That's the New York Yankees, guys. Just think about that. 200 to 300 million more than the Yankees. Think about how they are compared to the other teams per year revenue. That is the issue. That you get what I'm saying? It's not an issue that they're making more revenue. It's an issue that there's no salary cap and they get 300 million extra dollars next to the second biggest market in the United States.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue, to say the least.
Yeah,
Like I'm saying, the Dodgers aren't doing anything
and
wrong. The MLB is just flawed.
Yeah, I said it yesterday on the show. I was like, listen, someone somewhere in the Dodgers organization, they had a meeting with all the executives, and they said, do we really want to do this? Do we really want to pull in Skeens and just kind of screw the league? And they said, yeah, you know what? It's not our job to police ourselves. It's the MLB's job. Why should I stop if I'm being successful and I can do it? There's no reason not to. Does it make everyone hate you? Yeah. Does it make everyone unhappy? Yeah. But you know what? You're not going to have change unless that happens. So take it what it's worth. But I don't mind it from the Dodgers perspective. I kind of mind it as an overall salary cap thing, which I think most people would agree with.
And I have a question for both of you guys, and maybe this goes in line with the salary cap issue, but I think another issue that baseball has, while we're just spitballing here about baseball and some of their problems and things that they need to fix. I think another issue, as someone neutral, not invested heavily into the sport, is that it seems like Major League Baseball is very much regional as opposed to national, right? So you have, of course, you're going to follow your local teams, but on a national stage, right? For example, if you have two, I would say medium market teams playing each other on a national stage, the national audience is not as likely to tune in as maybe your local audiences from both of those teams. Now, would you guys say that the salary cap has anything to do with that in terms of maybe your medium market teams not being able to spend as much money as maybe your larger market teams, and so that in turn, right, maybe like dilutes the quality, which in turn kind of keeps the fans away. Do you think there's any correlation to the salary cap and the regionalization of baseball? Whereas if it were to become more national, maybe the baseball will take another
I
step
think there's a
forward.
good point there. I mean, when you look at a lot of these small market teams, let's say the Marlins, right? Marlins 2003 won the World Series, but they literally could not hold on to any of their star players. They couldn't do it. They couldn't afford them. And what happened was they sold them to the Yankees and the, Braves and the other, the other big teams in the league. And that was it. Nobody cared about the Marlins in 2004. It was over. There's no stars to watch, right? If Paul Skeens got traded from the Pirates, which they didn't do, but they have done similar things in the past, I mean, that craters team viewership. Why would you watch if your favorite players aren't there anymore? I think it's really hard. If there was a salary cap, yeah, I think you're right. I think that smaller market teams would have more of an ability to hold on to those big league talent. And when you have that big league talent, that's what draws fans to you. And that's what people want to see. Nobody wants to see two mid to low level teams duking it out for last place. That's not what's exciting.
Right. Right. Drew, any additional thoughts on that in terms of the salary cap and the correlation to like the regionalization of baseball? Do you think there's any correlation to that? Any thoughts from
Yeah,
you on that?
definitely. I think the most affordable, honestly, subscription to watch like any game, kind of like NFL Ticket or NBA version is MLB TV. I subscribe to it every year. I think it's like 150 per year to watch any game you want, unless it's like on Peacock or something. And then of course you need to buy your local blackout thing in general, and it's been increased over the years worldwide and stuff like that. But that's the only time really you get to see like certain small market teams, and it has increased views for these small market teams, but it hasn't changed the fact amount of like revenue and stuff they generate and the amount of exposure, amount of people that actually watch it. Like for example, they showed this thing where like people from Japan and Dominican Republic, and stuff like that, they'll watch like they'll watch their favorite players teams, because sometimes they don't have favorite teams. Because for the longest, it was before it happened, it's like, oh, Japan teams would watch the West Coast teams, right? The Republic would just watch their favorite players. So I think the players matter a lot. Like we saw with Shohei and Yoshi, Japan people are tuning into whoever's playing for their countries, and same with Dominican Republic teams. Like Dominican Republic's going to want to watch Juan Soto, at the end of the day, or they're going to watch someone else. So I think TV does matter for this, because like these small market teams can win a World Series. We saw with the Royals, right? I know Kansas City is a decent sized market at the end of the day, but their fan and like I've been around their fans, they're really dedicated fans, but it's not as big as these other ones where like they win the World Series, and they win the World Series in 2014, they lose. They win the World Series in 2015, and then after that, everyone leaves because they're not getting the money they can get or any of that. So even when a small market team is successful, it's still fun to watch. But we're seeing that we're not seeing a Royals anymore, or stuff like that, or a team that's not top 10 or something like that. It's just there's not enough parity.
Yeah, I think that's great points. And look, when the Yankees come calling, or when the Dodgers come calling with that blank check, right? It's pretty hard for these players to turn it down, no matter what kind of season they're coming off of, whether it be a championship or not. So, right, something to be addressed going forward. And also, real quick, you talked about the NBA League Pass. I just gotta make this notation real quick. I've had the NBA League Pass for the last 2 years. I paid a total of $5 a year for the NBA League Pass, guys. There are always promotions on these sports books where you put a $5 bet and they'll give you 3 months free of the NBA League Pass. So what I do is I do it, and I have one of my friends do it. It expires like in the middle of January, so I'll run mine like November to January, and then I'll take my friends and I'll run it from January to the rest of the season. So I get the whole season for like $5. So pay attention to that, guys. Don't pay the full price for the NBA League Pass. Look for your sports books. They always offer deals every single year for the NBA League Pass, and you will always get it for $5 or less.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I did want to mention on your Kansas City Royals, Drew, a nice little trade for the Dodgers, unfortunately for the rest of baseball. Chris Bubich moving to the Dodgers from Kansas City. I think that's a really nice pickup for them. It's going to be hard because he's going to be probably a bulk inning. I mean, like he's not going to take a starting rotation job from any of the guys who's
I'm
there
just say
right now.
why, like why Dodgers, like
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is
what's
really trying to ensure that their bullpen doesn't break down. They have a bulk reliever who can really come in, who was a former All-Star. He knows how to pitch. He has a postseason experience. Like it is a phenomenal move. I just wish it didn't happen.
Oh yeah, it's a great move at the end of the day. And I have of course friends that were, because I went to college in Kansas, friends that were Kansas City Royal fans, and it's just one of those things where it's just like those kind of teams, and like the Guardians and stuff like that, and the Brewers are the most successful, I would say, small market team right now. And it's crazy. Like I think the most impressive thing that we're seeing, and it's not being admired as much, is the Brewers, Milwaukee, with how small market is, how successful the Brewers are, is like one of the most insane things I've seen in sports in general.
Yeah, 100%. Call it Moneyball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to give everyone opportunity to give last thoughts on the MLB, because we do have some news in the MLS that I want to get Prince's reactions and thoughts from. Drew, any last thoughts on the MLB trade deadline, or any kind of outlook on any teams or anything like that?
No, but I would say that there's one thing I can say really quickly is I would say definitely look out, the teams to look out for the NL. Even though the Brewers didn't make entirely great moves, I would say look out for the Brewers, the Phillies, the Rays, and the Red Sox. And if the Yankees get healthy, I think they're the best team in the AL with their additions.
I don't even think they need to get healthy, and I think they're the best team in the AL. Just honestly
You
speaking,
need that beast healthy, though.
yeah, that would be nice. But at the end of the day, this team is rocking. They've averaged 5 runs per game without Judge. I know that they had a little bit of a losing streak towards the end of the All-Star break, but they are back. They are motivated. I don't top to bottom, their lineup is vicious. Adding Judge and Bellinger back into it and Stanton, I mean, that's just going to add to an already stacked lineup. If the Dodgers weren't here, everybody would be talking about it's how unfair the Yankees lineup is. And then when you bring back, hopefully, the starting rotation, who is 3/5 injured right now, that's going to be a really dangerous team come off season. All right, Prince, any last thoughts of the MLB? And if not, please just go into the MLS. We have some not breaking news, but recent news, and I'm interested to hear how it affects with the timeline of the internationalization of the MLS. I got it there. I got
Good
there.
job. Good job. We got there. Yeah. So no other thoughts for me in the major leagues. I think we've covered a lot of it. So we'll see what happens here going forward. Hopefully, baseball can implement some financial restrictions here to make a little bit more parity in the league. But speaking of financial restrictions, we're going the opposite way in MLS. We're trying to loosen some of these financial restrictions. We talked about this briefly on a previous podcast episode, but basically right now the MLS is in a very pivotal point in their league right now in terms of sustainability. You got to keep in mind, guys, just a little bit of a backdrop on the MLS. This league is just 30 years old, right? Started in 1996. Very much still in, I wouldn't say it's infancy, but very much in its intermediacy is what I would say, right? Kind of in its teenage years. In comparison to other sports leagues around the world, even those in the United States, right? You look at the NFL, been around for what, 80, 90 years. Major League Baseball, over 100 years, right? The NBA, 60, 70, 80 years. NHL, same thing. So you look at all the other top sports leagues in America, they've been around for nearly a century. So in relation to those, and even you talk about soccer leagues in Europe, right? There's the English Premier League, which of course back in the day wasn't called the Premier League, but basically, your top flight professional soccer in England was in the late 1800s. So you're talking about over 120 years for some of these leagues in Europe that have been around. So in relation to those, the MLS is still very, very young, just 30 years old in its development here. And this is very much a pivotal fork in the road here for the MLS. Make no mistake about it. I think in 4 years' time, we will look back at the decisions that are being made right now and we'll say, well, this is the reason why either the MLS turned left or turned right. So a couple things happening right now. Don Garber, current MLS commissioner, he's been the commissioner for over 25 years. He was basically responsible for saving the MLS, which again, a little bit more backdrop on Major League Soccer. It started in 96. It was on the verge of folding completely in the early 2000s, around 2001. They were probably just a couple months away from going completely bankrupt and going out of business. So Don Garber came in, saved the day, more or less, saved the MLS, brought them to sustainability, and has done a great job maintaining the integrity of the league over the last 25 years. However, you look at that, that's considered to be MLS 2.0. We're in MLS 3.0 now, and especially with Messi coming over, that kind of signified the beginning of MLS 3.0, where we're looking at not just sustaining, but growing, right? So we're in a different time frame now where Major League Soccer is in a position to start competing globally as one of the top leagues in the world. Maybe not cracking into the top 5, but maybe going somewhere between 6 and 10. I think that's a real possibility for the MLS if they do the right things financially. So lots of things happening in Major League Soccer right now. Of course, coming off of the World Cup, being hosted in America is a massive, massive deal. MLS is trying to capitalize on as much of that momentum as they can. So with Don Garber here, he's going to be stepping down. After 25 years, he's stepping down as Major League Soccer commissioner. They did have a vote and they elected a new commissioner. His name is Larry Berg. He was a majority stake owner in LAFC. He's had some ownership overseas in Europe. He had some ownership in Swansea City over in the English soccer pyramid. He also had some ownership stake in Roma and Serie A. So he's been invested in the soccer world for quite some time. But his main thing, from what I've read about him, is he is basically someone who comes in and increases the value of whatever he touches. So the MLS owners, they elected him to be the new commissioner with that in mind, right? The MLS wants to grow. They want to be a player in the global market. They don't want to just settle for the secondary and tertiary market. They want to compete in the primary market. They want to compete with some players that might go to Eredivisie. Maybe they'll go to MLS instead. Maybe get some players who, instead of coming at the end of their prime, will come in the middle of their prime, right? Because let's face it, if you look at the MLS over the last 10 years, has it grown? In my opinion, it has not. Okay, I think the MLS is in the exact same spot that it was over the last couple of World Cups. So we're still getting European talent, but we're getting them late in their career. And the goal is to get those guys in the middle of their career. And at some point, you want to get them at the beginning of their career, right? That's when you start talking about breaking into the top five. So getting back to Larry Berg here, new commissioner of the MLS, he's expected to take over next year. Don Garber will finish out this season. So what does this mean for the MLS, right? Well, there's a major media rights deal coming up in 2029. The current media rights deal for the MLS will expire as of 2029. This is a massive, massive deal. This will greatly impact how Major League Soccer moves going forward. They have to get it right. They have to make it to where it's easily accessible to a mainstream audience while at the same time making money off of it. I think the Apple deal was a bit of a mistake, putting it behind a paywall. The MLS is not established enough to put it behind a paywall, so that absolutely backfired on them. They lost tons of money by doing that. And that deal, of course, they're not behind a paywall anymore, but you do have to have the Apple subscription. But that's all you need. You don't need an MLS pass anymore. But in any case here, that deal is going to expire in 2029. So we're going to see MLS on Apple TV for about a couple more years. Then likely that's it. It's going to go somewhere else. So we'll see who steps in, but the commissioner is directly responsible for making that deal happen. That is his primary job, and that's really going to be the main factor for the Larry Berg here in terms of getting a deal done to move forward here with the MLS. So that media rights deal is crucial, critical, absolutely critical in 2029. Other than that, right, I think if you look at the MLS as a whole, the arrow is pointing up. It's in the right direction. You've got the international transfer window lined up now with the rest of the world, which is going to give you more accessibility to top end talent. Your calendar now is also in accordance with the rest of the top leagues around the world. So MLS is going in the right direction, but we'll see with this change of MLS commissioner here. Hopefully he's able to grow this league. Is very important. And like I said, that 2029 media rights deal is everything. It is everything for the MLS. And they have to get it right. Otherwise, this league could regress. And if it regresses, who knows what happens at that point. So right now, like I said, everything going forward, but we'll see. Larry Berg, former majority stake owner in LAFC, which of course, those of you guys who know about LAFC, he's absolutely improved the value of LAFC over the years. So there's a proof of concept already in the MLS of him taking over a team, having some say in a team and really boosting their value. LAFC, one of the most valuable teams in the world actually right now, not just in the MLS. So we'll see. We'll see. There's some mixed emotions on it, some mixed feelings from some pundits and some critics. People are on one side or the other. So a lot of I would say a little bit of controversy around him right now, but definitely a massive, massive move. A lot of things going forward here for Major League Soccer. Very much at a fork in the road here as we enter the next several years before the media rights deal.
What's some kind of the fallbacks? You mentioned it's a little bit controversial. Why would that be?
So the only thing, there was actually two people who were running for commissioner. The other guy, I forget his name, but he was basically a former executive at Fox. He was responsible for creating Fox Sports 1. He was responsible for, he also created Fox Soccer Channel. He's been involved in a lot of media rights deals involving soccer with Fox. He also got Fox the World Cup in 2018, 22, and of course 2026. So he's been at the negotiating table a lot in terms of getting soccer on Fox, right, for example. So he has a lot of experience with that. And with this 2029 media rights deal being such an important thing, there are some critics out there who say he should have been the one that would have been better suited to enter this pivotal media rights deal. But the problem is, he doesn't really have a whole lot of soccer experience within the MLS. That's where Larry Berg has the advantage, where he's actually been in the MLS. He's been an owner in LAFC. He sat at those meetings in the MLS with the commissioner and the other owners. So he probably might have a pulse of the owners a little bit more than somebody from the outside. But again, when you're dealing with somebody who's obviously made big media rights deals with soccer already, with Fox, and has had a major hand in creating a lot of broadcast rights within Fox Soccer, and that whole umbrella. There's a lot of people that say that they would have been better off with him. So I guess that would be the fallback, is that this guy, although he does have Larry Bird, he does have experience in soccer, not necessarily on the media rights end of things. He doesn't have as much experience as maybe his competitor did.
Interesting, but that's why you have teams. That's why you have teams to help you with that stuff, right?
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, he'll have the support that he needs, right? He's not going to go in there obviously blind, and yeah. I think that's a great point that you made. I think a lot of people are forgetting that point. Like, he's not just going to go in there without any kind of support or help. Like, he will have some strong advisors who will kind of know how to navigate those waters. And yeah, for me, I mean, we'll just see. I'm a little. I need to do probably more research, see how he, how things go in his first couple of years with him at the helm. But I think it was time. Don Garber, he was past his time, right? He did his job. His job was to come in and save the league, which he did. So credit to Don Garber. I think he deserves credit that a lot of people don't like to give him, right? People like to crap on commissioners in general. But he did a great job. He did his job, but his time has passed, and it's time to take the league to the next level. So hopefully, this guy who has a track record of improving values of whatever he touches, hopefully he can improve the value of Major League Soccer going
Yeah,
forward.
I'm looking forward to it. We've talked about the internal, dang it, I'm not going to say that again. The globalization
Globalization. There you go. That's a better word. Well done.
of U.S. soccer, and I am excited to see where it goes. Although the lack of relegation is always very interesting to see how that matches up across the world. Do you have any thoughts on
And
that?
I wonder if I wonder if that's going to be a topic of issue at some point. The problem is, Moshe, and this has always been the kickback on promotion and relegation, is you're going to have a hard time having owners agree, right, to risking their money, right, with the potential of being relegated to a second division, right. That's the hard part. There's already established where these owners, they don't have to risk losing any money because they're always going to be in the top flight. Whereas now you're going to ask them, willingly to say, hey, I want you to invest, X amount of dollars, but there's a chance that you might lose a lot of that revenue if you guys get relegated to second division, right? So it's a battle between competitiveness and basically the owner's pockets. And I think the owner's pockets, hate to say it, 10 out of 10 times that's going to win. So I really don't see it happening. But from a competitive standpoint, that's what we all want.
Unless they create financial incentives to win.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure there's some look, like the reason it works in Europe is because that's how it started. Like, it's just been embedded in the culture for, half a century, even a century on some leagues. So it's just part of the fabric of soccer in Europe, where it's not an American sport, right? We don't have it at all in any sport in America. So I'm sure there's ways. I'm sure there's some financial guru genius out there that can probably figure out a way to entice the owners to make it seem like that it's not as much of a risk for them, and there's maybe more to gain than there is to lose. But that's just a tough conversation that hasn't been had yet. And that's way beyond my expertise to be able to really give any comment on the financial side of that, how that works. But I just know that ultimately you're asking owners to take a gamble, which owners typically don't.
Yeah,
like
I
to do.
definitely hear that. All right. We've talked about the trade deadline. We've talked about MLS. We've talked about a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, Drew, what's going on?
Oh, I just put 100 sign up.
Oh, I can't actually see any of the symbols that are putting up. It just looks like blank.
That makes sense, because I kept putting my hand up and you were going right past. And I'm like, okay, you must not be able to see
I
my
could
hand
not. I just saw you. I didn't know what it was.
up. Yeah, I'm like, all right, let me just interrupt him because he clearly doesn't see my hand up here for 5
Sorry
minutes. All
about
right, no,
that.
go.
If you just give me a room, I'll just fill it with talking. All right, let's get to our recap and our question of the day. Prince, do you have any question of the day for us today?
Oh, I actually have
No, I
one.
don't have anything for you guys
Perfect.
today.
Drew, what do you got?
Perfect.
I think this is an interesting one. I've seen it before as well too. Where would you rather win an Olympic gold medal or a championship ring on a team?
I mean, I've got to say championship on a team. I mean, the Olympics are nice, but they're every 4 years, and the amount of money and consistency involved in it isn't as much as a professional league. It just isn't even close in my book, right, Prince?
I'm gonna pull a Mosh here and say it depends what sport it is.
It can be honestly. How about this? It can be
So,
any event for Olympic medal that you would want to win it on. And then I would say it could be any team.
if I'm talking about swimming, I want to win a gold medal, right? Because swimming, the pinnacle of swimming is to win the Olympic gold medal. Whereas if I'm talking about basketball, I'd probably rather win an NBA championship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I would say Olympic gold medal because that'd be really cool to go to the Olympics in general. I would love just to be able to wear an Olympic gold medal, and it's just like something that like Mo said, it happens every 4 years. So I think that would be pretty cool overall. But the champion, if I could win a championship with my favorite team, that would be also really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I have to go with what's going to pay me more.
That's a
And
really good point. Yeah.
which one lasts longer? You know?
All right, guys, I got to wrap it up here really quick. Did you want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
All right.
about
Sorry,
to.
Drew. Why don't you
I
recap
got
us with
somebody
your best
here
bets real
coming over in
quick?
just about a minute.
Yeah, definitely. Freddie Peralta over 15.5 outs at -115.
I'm on the Guardians money line -137. All right, Prince, close us off.
All right, guys, looking at in the Bolivian Premier League, give me Independiente Aurora over 3 goals -115. In the League's Cup tonight, I'll take Cincinnati Pachuca over 3 goals at -150. And in the WNBA, give me the Golden State Valkyries -12.5 at home against Toronto at -112. That's going to do it, guys. This has been the Tuesday edition of the Only Bet Sports Podcast. For Sir Investor, looking at the Prince Picks. Have a great afternoon. Let's cash out these tickets. We'll be back again tomorrow live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday at Only Bets Podcast. Until then, talk to y'all soon. Thanks.